Mom's decided that she wants a hearty meal to start the week off with, and she's settled on Dad's stew. Take a seat. I'll show you how I make it. What Dad can do. This is the prep I did the night before. This Moore's marinade is the primary flavor in our stew. I shake it up well, and I make sure I put all the beef in a deep bowl. I'm going to dump most of this in, but I take out the time to stir it around and make sure the Moore's is getting all between the different cubes that I've got in here of beef. Now I like to pat it down just to make sure everything is going to be leveled out and submerged. So you can get that flavor in everything. Then we top it off. Nice and easy. Now that's going to go away for the night until tomorrow. To make this stew, you're going to need a few items. You're going to need the main item, Moore's marinade. This is critical. I use the mixed organic vegetables. My wife likes everything organic, and this is USDA organic. Comes from Costco. Wonderful frozen mix here. Has the carrots, sweet corn, peas, and green beans all inside of it. Don't have to buy it separately. The next item is the McCormick beef stew. Now this gives it just a little extra zing that we're looking for. And of course, we'll need some potatoes. I dice probably maybe 3/4 of the amount of beef that I use in potatoes. So we're going to peel those. Those will be added. And we're going to make them in medium-sized dices so that they don't just soften and go away during the time we're cooking it. And then, of course, the star of the show is our beef. Now, we knew that we were going to be having stew here sometime real soon. So last night, I took the stew and poured the marinade in it. It is best for this to sit for 10 to 12 hours. Overnight's even better. The longer, the better. The flavor is going to get all through the beef, and that's what's going to give you a unique flavor for this beef stew. So this stew beef is all marinated and ready to go. All right. So now, even though it's not a lot of ingredients, each of these ingredients are critical. You miss one, you won't get the flavor. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, since the marinade was done last night and it had a chance to sit overnight, we're going to prepare everything else. The beef can continue sitting inside of the marinade until we're ready to put everything inside of the Instapot. Now we cook it inside of the Instapot, but you can cook this inside of a crock pot. It's just going to take you anywhere from 6 hours or 6 to 5 hours in order to cook it. So let's go ahead and prepare these potatoes. Now, I peel potatoes a little different than most. If you don't have a potato peeler, however you peel potatoes is just fine. But I take a potato and I go both directions. Makes it really quick. And I like it that way. Take the eyes and everything off. And the smaller the potato is, the harder it is. Now, if I've got the cutter on both sides of my potato peeler, it's a lot faster. And of course, the larger the potato, the easier it is. So there's our results there. Let me show you a large one. Once I get these corners, I can go both directions. Now these are russet potatoes. I like a little firmer potato for something I'm going to cook with a lot of heat and for an extended period of time so it doesn't soften up and end up being mush in our beef stew. All right, so as I go I'm going to go ahead and throw them over here because I'm going to rinse them before we dice them and put them inside of our stew. So, while you folks rolling up, I'm going to go ahead and knock these out. Learned to do this some time ago when I hated peeling potatoes. You got the two-sided cutter. You can just wave it back and forth the way I'm doing here, and it knocks them out pretty quickly. I like to get the round in first. That way, going around it, it's only a back and forth. As a kid, my mom be preparing a meal for the family, maybe Thanksgiving, or as large as our family was, it could have been a Sunday meal. And we had to peel potatoes or snap peas, things of that sort. You hated those things, but once you get to a certain age and you learn a little better hand-eye coordination and maybe some little tips and tricks, like what I'm showing you now, it's not as bad. Two more to go. All right. Last one. And then we're done. Okay, now I'm going to rinse them off. When you rinse potatoes, take a lot of the starch out of it, plus that kind of wet, dry feeling, if you know what I'm talking about. It kind of eliminates that too. I'm going to rinse the potatoes. If you make French fries, homemade French fries, a lot of people don't know that if you do not soak them, pull that extra starch out of it, your potatoes don't turn out so well. So that's a tip I learned from how it's made, seeing the McDonald's French fries being made. So I'm going to make sure that I clean up all of the little portions that don't exactly look perfect. Lay them all out. Some of the deep portions here that are a little darker, snatch those off too. Now you may not be as picky as I am about potatoes, but my wife and I both are. I spend a lot of time with the processing of all the ingredients that go inside of my meals so that we can eat freely and we don't have any surprises when we're enjoying our meal. All right, they're looking good. All right, everything looks good as far as the potatoes go. And now it's time to dice them. So if you got a nice sharp knife, it'll go pretty quick and easy. So the size I'm going to cut them into is maybe about the size of a quarter, fully squared. So I'll take one like this and I'll cut it down the center. And you'll notice how it gets to sit flat for me. Now I'll cut them into 2 to 3 long slices. And then 1 or 2 slices across. And that gives me a cube roughly about this size. All right, that's large enough to where it won't just disappear as we cook it, but it's small enough to where we can fork it and eat it along with the rest of the stew. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and try and make short work of the rest of this. All right, as I finish them off, I'm going to throw them back into this bowl that I got for prepping. I don't want them too large because then they won't cook in well. They won't accept the flavors that you'll get from the Moors and the other ingredients that I pointed out. So you got to be Goldilocks with this. If it's too thin, it'll disappear as it cooks. If it's too thick, you won't get the flavor in. So you walk a tightrope with it, but do it a couple of times, you get used to it. Now, if you want the stew to thicken up a little bit, you can mince some of them a little smaller. They will break up and make a little thicker stew for you if that's what you're after. You can also choose to condense it once you're done, but we'll talk about that when we get to the end to make the stew the consistency that you want. But if you've done it a couple times and you know you want a little bit of the potato as part of the thickening agent for your stew, then you can cut them up a little smaller as you're doing the prep work that I'm doing now. Almost done, 50%. Any little extras like this, I go ahead and cut them off. My wife hates the little dark spots, so I make sure it's not in our meal. And believe me, she sees everything. All right, almost to the finish line. So folks, you'll note that my knives are always very sharp. I have a sharpener. I make sure that I rotate almost quarterly is always my goal, to sharpen the knives, because a dull knife is, contrary to popular belief, is the dangerous knife. The sharp knife takes less pressure and it cuts through everything like butter. So when you're forcing it, you lose control. But if you're able to just push it through like you see here, the knife cuts with ease. That's a safer knife. So make sure your knives are sharp. And just protect yourself from the stationary blade, like when you're washing dishes or something. But other than that, what you want for safety is a sharp knife. All right, potatoes are done. They are ready already. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull our inner pot out of our Instapot. Now this one is wonderful. We really, really love this new one. It has the option for the air fryer, which we're not going to use right now, but it also gives us this pot that we can put on top of the stove if we want to. And it's stainless steel. It's got the measurements and stuff inside. It's just wonderful. So we're going to put our stew inside of the pot. Now I'm going to drain the stew beef as I put it in here, because we don't need all the extra fluid from the marinade. Let's see. Just going to grab it up. Allow it to drain slightly. And place it into our Instapot. Oh, it looks good. Smells good too. I am a Moore's fan. I use that Moore's for a multitude of things. I'll be sharing with you folks as we go. But for today, it's going in my beef stew. The flavor is fantastic. I'm not sponsored by Moore's or anything, but brands that I've come to trust and know and use frequently, I give them a thumbs up, just like the Dukes. All right, last piece. Now, folks, I'm going to move this out of the way, but I want to show you something. When this is marinated properly, it almost looked as though it's cooked. That lets me know that the marinade is deep in it. The Moors had that deep caramel, dark caramelish color. And when the meat is ready, this is the way it looks. So that's what you're kind of looking for, to know that there's a time frame. Now, whenever there are tons of pieces in here, you'll still see some of the red, as you can see here. That's just because they're up against each other, and the Moors wasn't able to get in that area. But we don't need it everywhere. We just need it primarily through most of the meat. So now our stew is ready. Our beef stew, before the stew is ready. So what we're going to do first is we're going to cook this beef for probably about 30 minutes. We want to keep it under the steam. It'll start to loosen up and soften up the meat itself. It'll get that flavor all through the water that we're going to put in here, which is not going to be a whole lot. We're going to put some water in here. We're going to cook this beef roughly about 30 minutes. After that, we're going to add the potatoes. We don't want to put the potatoes in at the very beginning, because they will reduce to nothing. And we want a little firmness to them, but we don't want them as mush. So it's going to go beef for approximately 30 minutes. Then the potatoes for about 10. That'll put us at 40. And then for the last 10 to 15 minutes, it's going to be the mixed vegetables thrown in at the end. Now, once I get the water inside of the pot for the beef stew here, I'm also going to add the beef stew from McCormick's. Now, that dry mix here is going to go inside with the Moore's marinated beef, and that's going to be our first 30 minutes. All right? Now, I'm going to put roughly about 2 cups of water in our beef stew. Now, don't worry, we're going to add more water later, but we don't want it drowning. So There's our 2 cups. And our beef stew. We're just going to break the packet and add it. Now, what I suggest you do is try and move it to the areas where there's just the fluid so we can mix it into the liquid. That's my practice. I like to move it all around. I'm going to make that portion water soluble, so to speak. And rule of thumb here, folks, when you get the water in there. Now, I put 2 cups. I've got a little more beef than regular. We want it to be just about to the top of the beef. All right? So we're just a little shy, so I'm going to add just a little bit more water. Now, remember, folks, I talked to you a moment ago about the consistency of your stew. Now, it is better to have too much water and condense it at the end to get a thicker stew than it is to put too little water and end up with a burnt stew. Now, you can get the water out, but you can't get that burnt taste out. My wife hates that. All right, so we're going to add a little bit more to make sure we're just about the top of the beef. Perfect. And we're going to go ahead and put it into our Instapot. All right, so I'm going to move this right on over and get it plugged in. Wanted to keep that out of the way so you guys can see my preparations. So the Instapot is a wonderful, wonderful creation. Back in the day when the ladies used to cook with a regular steam pot, lots of accidents happen. But now cooking with steam is extremely safe. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the pressure cooker. All right, I'm going to select pressure cook, and I'm going to set my time for 30 minutes. All right, we're at 30 minutes. Now I'm going to press my start. It's letting me know that the lid's not on there. I'm going to go ahead and add the lid. Lid is on. Now, we're good to go for 30 minutes. Now, in the meantime, while this is going, we're going to go ahead and cook our rice. Now, my rice is very unique, so I'm going to show you how to make that because it goes along with our stew. First thing we want to do is go ahead and clean up the counter just a little bit. Now, I'm going to put the potatoes on some water so they can sit and remove that excess of starch while the beef is cooking for its 30 minutes. Cool water is just fine. I'm going to go ahead and move these frozen vegetables back to the freezer. We won't need them right now, but we'll bring them out when it's time. Clean up our work area. I'm going to move the Instapot over just a tad bit so we've got room to work and you folks can see exactly what I'm doing. The potatoes, I'm going to go ahead and cover them, put them to the side. Love these Pampered Chef bowls. I'm a stainless steel fan. You folks hadn't noticed. We'll just put them over here. Now we're going to cook my rice. Now, my rice, as I said before, is a little different than, I guess, most folks. Folks that don't care for rice very much, that have had my rice, tend to dig in. So, first we'll need...
I don't know, babe. That's a secret recipe.
Oh. Wife doesn't want me to share that, so...
You'll do the before and after.
It'll be some rice. We're going to cook... She doesn't want the secret out. So, folks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how much rice and some of the tips to cooking rice, but I'm going to keep the secret. All right, so I'm going to cook 1 cup of rice. 1 cup. So, 1 cup of rice goes in here. Now, we could cook 2, but it's so easy to make. We'll make 1 for now, and we'll make more during the week as we eat this beef stew. If needed. So 1 cup of rice goes in. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is something I, again, was taught by my mother. There was a long time ago when rice and other grains had really, really bad things added to them so that they wouldn't cling and stick to one another. There's also a lot of starch inside of the rice, and we want to remove some of that. Also, if you didn't know, the FDA allows a certain amount of bad things. I'll call it bad things, feces, insects, and stuff like that, and all of the grains. Simply because in a big silo, you can't keep everything and get everything out. So there's a certain amount there. So if you folks aren't rinsing your grains, rice, grits, etc., you've got a lot of things that they just couldn't get out inside of your meals. So I'm going to move you folks over so you can take a look at how I rinse my rice. Get you right in here. All right, we'll move this. It's imperative to me that I rinse my rice for those reasons I just mentioned. And all we're going to do is run some nice cold water. We'll fill it until it's above the rice. I like to swirl mine. And note the white little haze that's on the rice. I simply tip it and rinse that off. I'm going to do that until the water begins to look fairly clear. Now this takes some patience, but once you see my rice at the end, you'll appreciate the time that it takes in order to do this. All right, note folks, the water is clearing up really well now. I'm going to rinse it one more time. I think we're about there. Single cup, yeah, about 4 or 5 rinses. And note how clear that water is now. That's what we're after. We want to get everything we can out of there. All right, now that we've got the rice all rinsed, I'll give you a bit of the simple rice cooking process. You want double the amount of water that you have for rice. That's how I do mine. All right, I've got 1 cup of rice. There's going to be 2 cups of water. And because we don't like it crunchy or anything like that, I always add about 1/4 of a cup more. All right, so there we go. Now, all the other ingredients that I put in my rice are very simple. However, I could tell you, but then you know. We'll be back in just a moment. Well, folks, now that all the closely guarded secret ingredients are added to the rice, I'm going to show you how to cook it from here. Now, we've got a pot, decent size. Of course, your rice is going to rise a bit, so you want to make sure you got a pot that's large enough to allow it to boil and allow it to steam without flowing over. We're going to put it on, and where I start is on high. Now, that's just to get the heat through. The types of pots I have the little heat conductor on the bottom here. It helps save energy. Once it's hot, I can really turn that temperature down quite a bit. So we bring it up to temp, and we're going to let that boil. As soon as it's at a high boil, I turn it to simmer, and we let that go for, I don't know, it's roughly about 20 minutes, somewhere in the neighborhood of that. So we'll bring it to a boil and go from there. Okay, we're at a boil now. I like to make sure that it's salted and buttered at the very least. Not sure how you folks do your rice, but here we are at a nice boil. I want to stir it about just to make sure it's not sticking. And then with enough steam in there, we're going to go ahead and drop this to our simmer. All right. All right, we're going to let that simmer until it's done. We'll check on it periodically. We're going to stir it at least 3 times before it's completed, and it's off and running. All right, so no beef stew meal would be complete without cornbread. Now, we don't blaspheme in here. We will never use Jiffy. That's an abomination of cornbread in my humble Southern opinion. So I'm going to teach you folks how to make good cornbread from scratch. Now, the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need some self-rising cornmeal, and we'll need some self-rising flour. All right. So the recipe for this can be modified as you feel. It's simply ratios instead of an exact measurement. So what I mean by that is this. For every cup of cornmeal, you'll need a half a cup of self-rising flour and a half a cup of sugar. All right, I make sweet cornbread. I do not make the other stuff. Again, I'm a Southerner. We like sweet cornbread, or it's not cornbread at all. All right, so I'm going to show you folks exactly how to do that. First thing we're going to do, since it's just me and Mama, it's going to be just enough for us, and I'll make some more fresh cornbread. You'll see how quick it is to whip it up, and you'll understand. So we're going to make 1 full cup of cornmeal cornbread. All right, so we've got 1 full cup. That's the only full cup we're going to use, and now we need the self-rising flour. The self-rising flour, we're going to need a half a cup of that. Half a cup goes in. All right, and of course I'm going to go ahead and clear the counter off of these containers. Next thing we're going to need is that half a cup of sugar. Now, sugar's kept on the counter for us, and half a cup is all we need. Now, if you folks are a little shy on the sugar, you can make it a little less if you'd like, but we use the half a cup. Sometimes I drop it a little shy. Half a cup of sugar. All right. Now, from this point, what you need to do is mix your dry ingredients together. Now, you can use a fork or a whisk, but my little shortbread cutter or shortening cutter is my favorite tool for this. So I just simply go inside and blend them about until I see that my flour and my cornmeal are all commingled. All right. Now, that's the way we want it to look. And once that's all together and it looks like it's a single thing, I take my spatula, which we're going to use here. And I make myself a little cavern. So just a little spot that opens up the center and make it almost like a little volcano. That makes it easy for our fluids to be held. Now, the fluid we're going to put in it, I use corn oil. Now, you don't have to use corn oil, but some mild flavored oil, usually vegetable oil is best, which my mom used to use, but I use corn oil. And I'm going to put enough to cover the base of the bowl. Then I'm going to put about half as much water as there is corn oil. So I'll just take it over and add a bit of water. All right. And you'll get this result. It's going to look just like that. All right. So again, this is not an exact science. Plus or minus is not going to kill us. But you understand the ratios. From that point, you start stirring it in from the center. As you stir, the little volcano walls will start to fall in. You just hit them as you go, and that allows it to blend itself in without you fighting with it, trying to mix the dry and the wet ingredients together. Now, I like to keep it turning, and you'll see how it meshes together. with the greatest of ease. So this is how we do it, and you don't have to have a blender. Just pull it in bit by bit. All right, and once it's blended fairly well, I like to grab the walls and do the final bit of mixing. All right. Simple and easy. All right. So if you've got muffin pans, or if you want to do it as a solid piece of cornbread, you can. But I like to have it as individual muffin pieces. And a nonstick muffin pan is perfect. I like the silicone one. And the oil inside of our mixture keeps it from sticking. Works out really, really great. And I got the measurement just about perfect here. So 1 scoop fills up a regular size muffin little receptacle. All right. Now you can drop yours just a little shy if you want them as tight little muffins. But if you're doing it in a regular pan, I cook it in the cast iron. I love cast iron. It heats so evenly, and the nonstick quality of it is just wonderful. If you got a glass top, you might want to think twice about it. I don't care. I prefer the attributes of the cast iron over a few scratches. So we've got 6 muffins, and I'm going to fill the center one with the excess and just make sure they're all roughly about even in size. And trust me, folks, this is delicious. Made with the things you have instead of a box. Kind of shake them down. I'm going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Once that's all heated, we'll go ahead and put it in. Seems like the beef stew is just about ready for checking. I'm going to slide it over here. We got exactly 1 minute before we free the meat. All right, there we go. So now we're going to release this steam. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. So that we can open it up and put our potatoes in for the next for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And when you have one of these, you want to be careful of the steam. And if you folks could smell this, it smells great already. Now, you can throw a washcloth or a dishcloth, across it to dissipate that steam if you don't want it in a straight stream upward. Maybe you got it under the cabinet or something. It helps. Once all the pressure is off, the little red knob will drop and let us know that it's safe to open it. And that's where we'll add our potatoes. So, with that being the case, I'm going to go ahead and drain the potatoes. And they'll be ready to go in. Now, I want to bring you folks a little closer so you can see from every angle what it looks like when we get it open. Just waiting for the little red button. You guys can see it from above, but here. Waiting for the drop on this little red button right here to give us the indication that it's safe. Ah, there we go. All right, so it's safe to open it. We're going to twist and open it. The steam pressure is off. And wow. Oh, look at how rich the fluid looks inside of there. We are on track to delicious results from our stew. All right, so now we are going to add our potatoes. And let's be a little bit nosy. Let's check the progress of the stew. See how it's kind of falling apart? Yeah, it's tender. Very tender. And that's what we want. Yeah, it's looking great. We'll steal a piece to let it cool so we can taste it. But meanwhile, we're going to add our potatoes. So when you're adding something to something that's deep and hot, you want to pour away from yourself if you're going to pour. So I'm going to add these, but I'm going to pour them in away from myself so I don't get burned. Show you folks the results. All right. So now take a look at this. We've got the potatoes in. There's plenty of fluid for those. And at this point, we're going to go for our next 15 minutes. Now, before we do that even, we're going to stir them around, make sure that they are mixed in well with the rest of the stew. Fluid looks good. I think we're going to be good to go for the next 15 minutes. Once we come back, we're going to put the items in there that definitely would end up being mush, so we don't put them in for the full cook. And that'll be the vegetables. All right. So now we're ready to go again. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on. All right, we are safe. Now, what we want to do is we're going to cancel. And we're going to go back to pressure cook. And we're going to reduce that time to 15 minutes. And we start. Now it's going to bring everything back up to temperature again to create steam to lock off the vent, and it'll start the pressure cooking again. Meanwhile, over here, folks, the rice is ready for its last leg here. The oven's preheated and ready to go for the cornbread. Now this rice is looking great. You folks see that? Looks great so far. Just about perfect. See, it's not gummy. Still semi-flaky, but there's still a lot of fluid. It's got to finish up. Probably be done in the next 5 minutes. Temperature's on low, and it's continuing on. Now, the oven is ready for the cornbread. I'm going to put it in on somewhat center shelf, and it's all ready. Looks great. I'll put it in. I'll try to move as quickly as possible so I don't lose the heat, and we're going to let it run. Now, I watch my cornbread. The time frame may vary depending upon how much fluid is in it, whether it's a rainy day or not. If you folks bake, you know what I'm talking about. But with it not being an exact measurement, the best thing to do is to watch it. So when it starts to brown right around the rim of those muffins, that's when we're going to take it out. Anything that you're cooking, when you take it out of a warm oven or off of a warm eye, if you don't remove it, it's going to continue to cook a little while. So you want to remove it a little earlier if you are going to leave it in the pan or whatever. That's how some of you folks may think, oh, it's perfect, but you pull it out and all of a sudden it's dry or it seems overcooked. It's because it continues to cook, just like anything. The human skin's the same thing. If you get burnt, that's why they tell you to put cold water or ice on it. Your meat too, so you want to stop it from cooking. So the same concept with everything that you're cooking. You want to make sure you take it out of the heat as soon as possible. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that cornbread and the rice as well. The stew will be done in about 15 minutes, ready for us to add our vegetables. Okay, We're at our next 15. And it's time for our frozen vegetables. We're going to put approximately, I think, about 2 cups worth of our organic mixed vegetables to finish off our stew. Those are going to run for about 10 minutes and it'll be ready to eat. Go ahead and scoop them up here. Now, my wife is like a rabbit. She loves the vegetables. I'm like a fox or a wolf. I got to have the meat. So I try and make it a healthy balance between the two. And I can tell you right now, 2 cups is not going to do for her. It'll probably be double that. We'll put 4 cups in. We'll see how it looks with the fluid and everything in just a moment. I want to take a peek at the cornbread real quick here. It'll be ready to go here shortly. As soon as that steam lets off, we'll lift and add the last of our ingredients. Almost there. And again, folks, we're waiting for the little red button to pop in order for us to take the lid off. So it's almost there. See, the hissing starts to decrease quite a bit. You'll know you're almost there. Now, the main thing we're going to be looking for is to make sure we've got enough fluid left inside to cook our organic vegetable mix. And also, I'm going to be adding a special ingredient. This is a water chestnut, the water chestnuts. So this is something that's very unique to my stews. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up while we're waiting for the venting to complete. All right, vent stopped. Go ahead and open that open. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Looks good, smells good, must be good. All right, so now we want to get this back in here as quickly as possible. Looks like the fluid's just fine. Let me bring you over and let you see that. Because this is definitely a stew. We want some gravy to be able to put on our rice and enjoy it as a stew. We can eat it with rice, we can eat it without the rice, but if it's dry, it's not exactly going to come out to be an optional type of meal for us. So let me get you guys set back. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up some of these water chestnuts. Again, like to clean as I go. Makes things easier when we sit down and get ready to consume. So the water chestnuts, I'm going to go ahead and open these up. I like these safe can openers where they open everything and has no sharp edges to cut you. I'm going to drain that. Now, I like my chestnuts sliced. And we're not going to roast them on an open fire. We're just going to dice them a bit. Like them sliced. Almost like potato chips. We're going to just toss them right on in. I don't want them too thin, but I think this is the first time I've made my stew with the chestnuts in it for my wife. Hope she likes it. She tends to like something with a crunch with her meals. So these water chestnuts will hold a little bit of the crunchy characteristic to it, but it also draws up that flavor of the of the stew. Tastes great to me. Hope she likes it as well. So, you folks are experiencing something for the first time with her in this meal. So I'm going to chop them all up. Now you can get them sliced from the store, but I like to take the holes and cut them into the size that I prefer myself. All right, water chestnuts are in. Now we're going in with the vegetables. Well, that's 2 cups. Nowhere in the neighborhood. All right, so we got to go a lot deeper with the vegetables. All right, that is 4 cups. Yeah, that's not going to do her either. She suggested it's probably going to be 6 cups. And yet again, Mama might be right. Yeah, folks, she is correct. All right, so it looks like it's going to be 6 cups as the best measurement for addition. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it around a bit. I don't want all of the vegetables just sitting on the top. Right, I want them down in where the flavor is. All right, I want some flavor to savor. We can't do that while it's sitting on the top. So let me move this out of the way. And I'm going to fold it just a tad. Oh, that looks so good. Yep. Now we see how the beef is coming apart there. It is so tender. As I press it against the wall, it's still in a full body, but look at how it just comes apart. Now we won't have to chew that more than with our tongue when that's done. That's going to be so delicious. Look at that. That is beautiful. I'm going to bring you folks over so you can see it at both angles. This is a delicious stew for me and for you. All right, folks, so I'm going to go ahead and get the Instapot set back up for its last 10-minute run. Just put the lid back on. You line it up. Little pressure, put it back into place, and now we're going to run it for 10 minutes. I'm going to shut that old one off. I'm going to turn it on to pressure cook. I'm going to reduce that time to 10 minutes, and we'll let it run. All right, so that's going to be the last of it. Once that's done, we'll be ready to eat. Let me take a look at this cornbread real quick. It should be just about ready to go. Let's see how she's doing. Exactly what I mentioned, folks. I want you to take a look at this. I'll bring you in a little closer. Now, this cornbread looks perfect. As I mentioned before, you want to look for the browning around the edges here. And that light browning around the edges lets me know that we're good to go. Now, we can verify that, which I usually do, by getting a toothpick, or in this case, I use one of these skewers, the bamboo skewers, to check it. You just want to make sure that there is not any of the batter that comes out when you poke it. So I'm going to check a couple of them here. And it's coming out as dry as a bone. Now, you can feel when it goes in that there's still moisture within there, but that's what we want. We don't want it as a cracker. We want it as a muffin for cornbread. So I say the cornbread is perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is get it out of that pan really quickly here, because as I mentioned to you folks before, I do not want it to continue to cook. Now, this is pretty hot, so what I do is I'll take one of these silicone mats and I press it up from the bottom like this and put it right on over into a container. I'm going to do that with all of them. And I move fairly quickly and it keeps from burning me. Getting this center one's going to be a little more tricky. And the last one. There will be a little bit of heat because it's fresh out of the oven, but that's our cornbread. Looks great. Feels just right. It's not overcooked. And that is going to be a delicious addition to our stew and rice dinner. All right, folks. We've got 10 more minutes on that stew. And we'll be right back. It's going to be great. All right. Time is up. Let's go ahead and vent this off. I'm hoping it's going to be just perfect. Now, this is the part I talked about earlier where we're going to check and make sure that the consistency is what we want. If we need to reduce it, we'll continue the temperature for a while with the top off so it can evaporate the extra moisture. Cornbread's good to go. Rice is good to go. We're just waiting on the stew. Right. Steam's reducing. I'm expecting that button to drop any minute now. All right, button just popped. We're going to go ahead and turn this. And wow, looks delicious. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to test some of the vegetables, make sure they're tender enough, which they appear to be. All right. All right, I say we are good to go. That looks so delicious, and the aroma is to die for. All right, folks. That is it for my beef stew. Let me bring you over and let you take a look. From the top angle. Wow. That looks like it tastes delicious. And trust me, folks, wish I could share it with you. But it's great. I'll tell you what. Let's take a peek in here at one of the water chestnuts. Make sure they held up pretty good. Yes. So the water chestnut still has a little firmness to it. That is exactly what we want. Oh, that's going to be delicious. Give it a try. Oh, my wife is going to love this. This is wonderful. I wish you folks could taste it, but that's it for the stew, the rice, and the cornbread. Now, this is a pretty large batch. Of course, everything that I did here can be done in reduction, but it'll be trial and error if you're making smaller amounts, if your family's smaller, or maybe just cooking for yourself. But this is delicious. Those water chestnuts, they add a little crunch, and they take on the flavor of whatever you're cooking them in. And that's exactly what they've done here. This is absolutely delicious. So folks, Think mom's going to be happy. But that's yet one more thing that dad can do. See you next time.